Planes don't just disappear, they crash. They break apart, they leave debris fields stretching for kilometers. MH370 did none of that. At 1:19 a.m., it transmitted its final normal signal. Then something changed, not gradually, not violently, precisely. Systems went offline in sequence. Communication stopped, tracking stopped, identification stopped. But the aircraft didn't stop flying. It continued for hours, unseen, unanswered, unexplained. A signal that ended. Not because the aircraft stopped existing, but because the world stopped seeing it. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 departed Kuala Lumpur on March 8, 2014. 239 people on board. Destination: Beijing. Everything was routine. Weather was clear. No distress calls, no warnings. At 1:19 a.m., the co-pilot transmitted the final voice communication. Good night, Malaysian 370. Nothing in his voice indicated distress. Nothing suggested anything unusual. But less than 2 minutes later, MH370's transponder stopped transmitting. And that detail matters, because a total failure looks like chaos. This wasn't chaos. This was selective disappearance. The aircraft didn't vanish from the sky. It vanished from the systems designed to identify it. There are two types of radar. Primary radar detects a physical object. Secondary radar depends on the aircraft identifying itself. MH370 didn't vanish physically. It vanished electronically. And that difference is everything. Because the moment the transponder went silent, the aircraft became anonymous. Then the route changed, not toward Beijing, but west, back across Malaysia, then northwest. No distress call, no emergency descent, no breakup, just controlled flight. A deliberate path change that no one could explain in real time. And later, military radar data indicated an aircraft turning back across the peninsula, consistent with MH370's timing after it disappeared from secondary radar. So the question becomes unavoidable. If the aircraft was still flying, why did it stop being seen? Modern airliners are not fragile machines. They are built on redundancy. If one system fails, another takes over. If communication fails, emergency protocols trigger. If a crisis happens, something, anything, leaks outward. MH370 triggered none of that. Instead, systems went dark, in sequence. First, the transponder, the I am here system. Then, ACARS, the maintenance and data reporting system. Then, voice communication. It didn't look like damage. It looked like the aircraft being peeled, out of visibility, layer by layer. And yet one thing remained. Not a voice, not a message, just an automated response. Satellite handshake pings. The aircraft never spoke, but it kept answering when asked. For hours after disappearing, MH370 continued responding to satellite interrogation signals. 7 automated pings, each one confirming the same thing. The aircraft was still powered, still airborne, still moving. But these signals didn't provide a simple location. They provided geometry, distance, a radius, a circle. Investigators called them arcs. Each arc represented where the aircraft could be at that moment, a sweeping band across the planet. And as time passed, those arcs expanded, deeper into the Indian Ocean, far from land, far from witnesses, far from recovery. A plane that existed, but only as a moving possibility. And that is a different kind of terror. Not disappearance by impact, but disappearance by isolation. At 8:19 a.m., the final handshake occurred. But this one was different, incomplete, distorted, not a clean response. Evidence suggested the aircraft lost power shortly after, not explosively, not dramatically, quietly, as fuel was exhausted. After flying for nearly 7 hours without communication, without interception, without explanation, and if that's true, then the timeline isn't the mystery. The mystery is the shape of the silence. Because a plane running out of fuel is normal, a plane flying for hours, after removing itself from the world's tracking systems, isn't. The search became one of the largest aviation efforts in history. Ships, aircraft, satellites, years of scanning. Vast areas were searched, and yet, almost nothing was confirmed. A few fragments washed ashore years later. Small pieces, not a fuselage, not a crash site, not a confirmed final location. No witnesses, no definitive conclusion. So MH370 became something rare, a modern aircraft, lost inside the modern world. Not because the ocean is unbeatable, but because the aircraft stopped participating in the systems designed to find it. Aircraft disappearances usually leave patterns: debris, emergency signals, fragmented wreckage. MH370 left silence, but not random silence, structured silence. Systems didn't fail unpredictably. They stopped in sequence. Tracking didn't collapse, it was removed. And the aircraft continued flying, for hours, into isolation. So here's the uncomfortable frame. MH370 didn't vanish like an accident. It vanished like a process. Visibility ended first. Agreement ended second. Confirmation ended last. And somewhere between those layers, the aircraft continued. Not gone, just no longer reachable. And that's why MH370 still feels unfinished. Because the story doesn't end with impact, it ends with systems, with layers shutting down one by one, until the world can no longer agree on where the aircraft is. Next time, we follow the most disturbing part, not the theories, the sequence. Because when a system loses visibility, the next failure is certainty. And after certainty, reality becomes negotiable, not with noise, with silence.